It's an organization shrouded in secrecy and mystery, but its members include some of the most famous and public celebrities in the world, like Tom Cruise and John Travolta. The Church of Scientology has its headquarters in Clearwater, Florida, but has celebrity centers in places like Los Angeles, Paris, and Nashville. Now, one of their most famous former members has filed a lawsuit against the church. Actor Leah Remini is suing the Church of Scientology. Remini claims in her lawsuit that Scientology hires outsiders and uses its own members to stalk, surveil, harass, threaten, and intimidate her and others who have spoken out. Tonight, we will take a look at her allegations with one of Leah's close friends who has also left the church. And we will examine the impact the rape convictions of Scientologist and actor Danny Masterson will have on the church as we investigate the allegations against the Church of Scientology.
I'm Vinny Politan. Thank you so much for watching tonight. Great to have you with us here on Closing Arguments. And when this lawsuit by Leah Remini was filed, shockwaves through the legal world, through Hollywood, through LA, and obviously through the Church of Scientology as well. You know, when it comes to churches and religion, I mean, everyone's got their own, right? Those that practice. And in this country, we have that freedom of religion where we can practice whatever we want. That was one of the founding principles of the country, is that there's no state religion and you don't get persecuted for practicing what you believe in. That's the American way. It's absolutely the American way. Now, Scientology obviously is one of the newer ones, one of the newer religions, and all religions begin at some point. This one, I believe, was like 1952, maybe. I think that's around the date. L. Ron Hubbard was the founder. Okay, so, you know, you can believe what you believe. You can practice what you practice. And many people do. And I mean, this Church of Scientology has grown. It's large. It's, you know, not nearly the size of other religions like mine, Catholicism, a little bit bigger. But still, it's, you know, it's in its infancy, really, when you think about it, compared to some of the other religions around the world. Now, Leah Remini was a member. Now, she wasn't someone who became a star in Hollywood and then joined. We've seen that happen, right? She was born in the same religion I was. She was a Catholic. And then I think when she was about 8 years old, her mother joined Scientology. So, you know, the children come along, and she was, since that age, raised in Scientology and really grew up that way, and then became the star and became pretty prominent, you know, in terms of a face of someone who's a member of this church, right? Tom Cruise, the biggest, John Travolta up there as well. We always hear about them, but there are others. There are others, and she was one of the other ones. And, you know, with the success of the King of Queens, you know, she became a little more prominent in Hollywood circles, in celebrity, etc. So as a result, she apparently got invited to Tom Cruise's wedding. And there was a weird moment at that wedding, which may have been where things between Leah Remini and the Church of Scientology kind of went different paths. And we're going to talk about that tonight. We're going to get into this lawsuit, and we're going to have former members of the church talk about their experiences and get their take on how they think this whole thing is going to play out. And we're also going to talk about Danny Masterson, the convicted rapist, who is a member, another one who grew up in Scientology, was convicted of raping 2 women who were former members of the church. So we got a lot to get to tonight, but I want to begin with this lawsuit. And for those of you not familiar with it, we've read through it, and here's part of it tonight that I wanted you to hear.
Beginning in the mid-1960s, The Church of Scientology, through its founder and leader, L. Ron Hubbard, institutionalized a series of retaliatory activities to be taken against any individual, organization, business, or government that Scientology deems to be an enemy or suppressive person. The ultimate purpose of the handling of suppressive persons or attackers is to totally restrain and muzzle, obliterate, and ruin utterly any individual they deem an enemy. Scientology directs followers to spot who is attacking us, start feeding lurid, blood, sex, crime actual evidence on the attackers to the press. In the past 70 years, Scientology, via defendants, has conducted countless sophisticated, well-funded, and brutal operations against suppressive persons that have spanned every decade in many countries. Here, defendants have undertaken a campaign to ruin and destroy the life and livelihood of Leah Remini, a former Scientologist of nearly 40 years, after she was deemed a suppressive person and declared fair game by Scientology in 2013 when she publicly departed Scientology. For the past 10 years, Ms. Remini has been stalked, surveilled, harassed, threatened, intimidated, and, moreover, has been the victim of intentional malicious and fraudulent rumors via hundreds of Scientology-controlled and coordinated social media accounts that exist solely to intimidate and spread misinformation.
So that kind of gives you the flavor for what this lawsuit is about and what the allegations by Leah Remini against the church are. And, I mean, all churches get sued, folks. They all get sued, right? The Catholic Church had a lot of problems, right? We know about that. And, you know, churches get sued like any other organization in our country. They have problems. Well, this is another one of these lawsuits. But this one is a little different in that the church is targeting and trying to ruin people, like as an organization. You know, that like a concerted effort to do that, which is a little unusual when it comes to lawsuits involving churches that I've seen. But, you know, let's continue. And the church, obviously, denies all of that. And here's part of a statement from the Church of Scientology about that lawsuit that was filed against them. This lawsuit is ludicrous, and the allegations pure lunacy. Remini spreads hate and falsehoods for a decade and is now offended when people exercise their right to free speech, exposing her for what she is, an anti-free speech bigot. The church is not intimidated by Remini's latest act of blatant harassment and attempt to prevent truthful free speech. If Remini does not believe in free speech, then she should consider emigrating to Russia. Interesting posturing there, saying that, kind of trying to turn the tables there and say that she's attacking them, they're not the ones attacking her. All right, let's bring in a guest who knows a lot more about this than I do, joining us tonight from Denver, Colorado, former Scientologist, author of the book Scientology, is that Xenu?
Xenu, yes.
Xenu, okay.
Xenu.
And Chris Shelton is with us. Chris, great to see you tonight. Thanks so much for joining. One thing I noticed, you left in 2013 also, same time that Leah Remini left?
I did. In fact, Leah and I have a few parallels that way because we're both about the same age as well.
And did you grow up in the church? Did you come in as an adult? What's your backstory?
Yeah, I grew up as we're called second-generation Scientologists because we grew up in the church. My parents got involved when I was very young. And so all of my living memories involve growing up in a Scientology household and learning Scientology principles. So I never questioned or had any reason to question that L. Ron Hubbard was the greatest human being who ever lived and that sort of thing. It was just part of the reality I had growing up, even though I went to public school and had a fairly normal life that way until at 15 years old, I started doing actual Scientology services when I lived out in Santa Barbara, California. And 2 years later, after graduating high school, I started working for the Church of Scientology, which I did for the next 25 years. So I spent quite a bit of time at the public level, at the staff level, and then going all the way to the billion-year contract in Los Angeles in the Sea organization. And so I have all those years and decades of experience to speak to about this.
So if someone asked you, how would you describe the Church of Scientology? Is it a religion? Is it an organization? Is it a community? How would you describe it?
Well, it is all of those things, and yet it's also at its heart, and this is how I talk about it. It is a money-making scam. That is my opinion of it, and that is the opinion of many other people who experienced it and left it in disgrace, in ruins, financially, psychologically, even physical abuse is a routine occurrence there. At least that was my experience of it and the experience of others that I've spoken with. So I found it to be a fairly abusive organization that actually operates pretty exclusively to make money. And everything focuses around that. And as a staff member, that was the number one priority, was making money for the church.
Well, so, anytime you go to church, they're always passing the basket around at the end of service. Like all of us have experienced that. How is it different, or is it the same?
Oh no, it's very different. Scientology operates on a business model where fixed donations are required for every single level of service. And there are a whole array of services, classwork and personal counseling, or what they call auditing, and that's charged for by the hour. And those donations are not voluntary. If you want to partake in those services, you have to pay those rates. This also includes written books and spoken lectures on CDs or cassette tapes that Scientologists have to listen to as part of their coursework. So there's a very fixed amount of money that is required to be a Scientologist, and going up the line, the higher you go and the more information you're exposed to, the higher the cost of the services. So by the time you reach the highest levels, Scientologists have on average given somewhere between $1 and $2 million for services. Even middle-income families end up with many credit cards, mortgaging their home 3 times. I've seen parents clean out their children's college funds in order to pay for their Scientology services. It's a very rapacious business model, and I really can speak from experience on that one.
Right. So, 2 questions. For you didn't have outside work, so how did you afford all this? So if you work for the church, do you get sort of like a scholarship so you don't have to pay for all these services?
Yeah, as part of the contract, as a religious volunteer, and that is what you are when you work for the church by legal contract, you receive your services for free. So you don't pay for them as a staff member or as a Sea Org member, but even those routes are a little clogged because there are so many mandatory services and jobs and training you have to do to be a staff member for Scientology, and you're rarely afforded the time to actually be able to do those services because you're so dedicated to clearing and saving the planet. And that is the mission that staff think that they are accomplishing by being Scientology staff.
So when you left, was it a difficult separation? How did that go? Because, I mean, that's part of this lawsuit from Leah Remini, is that, like, oh, this has been impossible, they've been going after me, et cetera. How about for you? Someone grew up in it and worked for Scientology for so many years.
Absolutely. It was a very difficult process. It actually took me 9 months to jump through various hoops in order to have the okay and get authorization to be able to leave working for the Sea organization and just become a regular public Scientologist. I didn't want to just escape in the middle of the night. I intended on continuing to do services. Fortunately, actually, when I got out, I then had access to the internet, and this is in 2013. I did not have access to the internet as a Sea Org member, at least not an uncensored internet. They do allow their crew, they allow their crew access, but it's censored very similarly to how China's is. So there's no negativity about Scientology that you can find when you're using the internet on a Sea Org base or installation. And that was where I lived for 17 years. Those great big blue buildings in Los Angeles, that was my home for 17 years. So the Sea Org, the Scientology in general engages in a program of thought policing where they convince you through certain chicaneries, certain lies, that it would be damaging to your mental and spiritual health and growth if you even see anything negative about Scientology, or if you see or hear anything about the confidential materials of Scientology. So Scientologists self-police to keep themselves away from that information. And that's how I acted for those 25 years that I worked for the church. So once I finally got out and had open access, I finally watched the South Park episode. I finally read information I had not seen or read before, and I learned the true biography of L. Ron Hubbard, as opposed to the carefully cultivated set of lies that we will call the Church of Scientology's biography of L. Ron Hubbard. And the two are very, very different stories. And when you find out just how different they are, the very validity of Dianetics and Scientology is blown out of the water. And I can give you specific examples if you'd like, but that was my journey out. And once I realized that I had been part of and had given my life to a complete lie, well, to say I was angry would be an understatement. And so ever since that time, I've been speaking out about Scientology as I have learned more and more about it, and the abuses I endured and the abuses that other people have endured as a result of trying to be part of it. It is a process of a lot of failures trying to make progress in Scientology because you're constantly pushed back down the line. But when you leave, as I did, and you start speaking out publicly against it, you become what's called a suppressive person. I am one such person. It's an official label that Scientology gives you. I received mine at the end of 2013, and I've been proudly wearing that label ever since. So that's been my history as a critic. And over the last 10 years, I've not only been recovering from that process, but I've also been documenting it through YouTube channels and my book, et cetera, and talking with other Scientologists and members of other cults who also have escaped their groups, because we have a lot in common, we find, when we start discussing the physical, sexual, and psychological abuses that occurred to us in the group.
Now, when L. Ron Hubbard passed away, David Miscavige took it over. He's the leader of Scientology, and he's also named as a defendant in Leah Remini's lawsuit. He made a rare public appearance in a promotional video for the launch of the Scientology Network, which was posted on the Scientology YouTube channel. Let's take a look.
You've probably heard of Scientology. In fact, every 6 seconds, someone searches the question, what is Scientology? There's a lot of talk about us, and we get it. People are curious. Well, we want to answer your questions, because frankly, whatever you have heard, if you haven't heard it from us, I can assure you, we are not what you expect.
Did you have any interaction with David Miscavige?
I did. I met him and was in the same room with him being briefed for 3 or 4 straight days at one point in 1996, along with many other staff. And I received orders from him and directions from him from time to time. But he was about 3 levels up above where I was at. So, and is he looked at the same way as L. Ron Hubbard was? I mean, when they talk about him, has he taken more so? At this point, I would say it's almost more so. L. Ron Hubbard is very central to the entire dogma and core Scientology. He's the one who wrote all the books and gave all the lectures, and ultimately is the one who is called source in Scientology with a capital S. Miscavige is the one who took over and has been leading the charge, but most Scientologists' experience of Scientology up to now mostly involves David Miscavige, because L. Ron Hubbard died all the way back in 1986. So it's really only very old veteran Scientologists who are still around remembering Hubbard. So David Miscavige has been the voice and face of Scientology since 1987.
Chris Shelton, it's been a pleasure speaking with you. Good luck in your continued recovery, as I guess you termed it. And we appreciate getting that insight tonight. Thanks so much.
Thank you very much.
All right, when we come back, we're going to talk more about Leah Remini's lawsuit, plus coming up next hour.
In the Bahamas, a love triangle and divorce turned into an alleged murder-for-hire plot. Lindsay Shiver is accused of cheating on her husband, Robert, then soliciting a third man with her lover to kill him. We are live in the Bahamas, tracking down the suspects and investigating the case.
Lindsay, you want to say anything about the allegations? Any message to Robert or the boys?
A man married 6 times. 4 of his wives died under mysterious circumstances.
Eccentric widower Thomas Randolph.
Charged with the murders of his wife and the man he allegedly paid to kill her.
A 2017 conviction overturned.
The plan between Mr. Miller and Mr. Randolph was to kill Sharon.
Now he faces a jury once again.
The Widower Murder Trial. Live coverage weekday mornings at 8, 7 Central on Court TV.
In 2006, Ms. Remini and her husband attended the wedding of Tom Cruise and Katie Holmes in Italy. Cruise, David Miscavige's best friend, is essentially second in command in Scientology. Ms. Remini was shocked to discover that David Miscavige's wife, Michelle, Shelley, Miscavige, was nowhere to be found. When Ms. Remini asked a group of Scientology executives and Tom Cruise's personal handlers, "Where is Shelley?" she was immediately admonished by the group. While in Italy, Ms. Remini called her Scientology assistant and asked her to type up a series of internal reports, sharing her concerns about the behavior she had witnessed and expressing her concern about Ms. Miscavige's health and safety. When Ms. Remini returned to Los Angeles, she was ordered to go to Clearwater, Florida, to the Flag Land Base Building, also known as FLAG. Ms. Remini was held at FLAG for 4 months while she was put through a process called the Truth Rundown. Simply put, Truth Rundown is a form of psychological torture meant to rewrite the target's memories. After months of psychological torture, Ms. Remini was nearing the point of psychotic breakdown. She finally gave in and rescinded all of her reports. After leaving Scientology, Ms. Remini filed a missing person report on Shelley Miscavige, who has not been seen in public for 17 years.
Again, that is from the lawsuit filed by Leah Remini against the Church of Scientology and David Miscavige, who is the leader of the church at this point. She also sent out a tweet. Take a look at this tweet. This is really interesting as well. One of the last times I saw Shelley Miscavige, pictured with us is Barbara Ruiz, who has also been disappeared by David Miscavige. Both of these women were in David Miscavige and Tom Cruise's inner circle. They haven't been seen in over 15 years. Part of what's going on in this lawsuit, and now she says she's being harassed and stalked, etc. Want to get more insight? Joining me right now from Castle Rock, Colorado, former member of the Church of Scientology, president of the Aftermath Foundation, and expert witness in Danny Masterson's rape trial. Claire Headley is with us. Claire, great to see you. Thanks so much.
Thank you for having me on. I appreciate it.
First, I'd like to get your response or your reaction to Leah filing this lawsuit. What do you think is going to happen? What do you think the reaction of the church will be? And do you think we will ever see a trial in this case?
Well, a few different comments. Obviously, we will see how this plays out. First of all, Scientology has not won a jury trial ever. simply the facts of any case presented to a jury are damning. So that's just a piece of information to put out there. Second of all, Scientology for 7 decades has gotten away with relentlessly pursuing, harassing, and attempting to silence anybody who dares to say anything about Scientology publicly. That applies to someone who's an ex-Scientologist or even just a comedian making a joke on a stage at an award ceremony, for example. And Scientology has gotten away with this as a tax-exempt organization that has accumulated billions of dollars. My own family has been harassed for 18 years, including having our phone records obtained, our trash purchased, private investigators stalking us, photos taken of my young children. It's no joke, and they get away with this in today's world. And so my hat is off to Leah Remini for standing up to this bullying organization and calling them to task on what they've been getting away with for decades.
What do you suspect would be their reaction if this thing goes to trial and we've got cameras inside the courtroom and everyone's going to tune in. They would tune in for this one. I don't think anyone's ever seen a public trial involving the Church of Scientology and one of their former celebrity members. What do you think the reaction would be to that scenario?
Well, first of all, let's point out that the alleged response from this alleged church is not even signed by a human being. It's an unnamed statement from who knows who that alleges some pretty outrageous statements. The facts of the matter are that there are some pretty damning evidence from many, many people who have been harmed and attempted to be, in Scientology's words, muzzled, silenced, destroyed utterly. Those are the words of the founder of Scientology as to how to deal with anyone who speaks publicly about Scientology. So in my opinion, it will be very interesting to see how this plays out, because there is absolutely ample evidence of the claims being made here, in my opinion, and not having seen any evidence, but just speaking from what's been done to me personally.
So your mother was a part of the church, and that's how you became part of it. What was the moment for you when you're like, I'm leaving, I'm getting out? And then what happened to you when you reached that point?
Yes, fair question. I was born and raised in Scientology. At the age of 16, I began my billion-year contract of service in the so-called Sea Organization, which is Scientology's paramilitary organization whose members commit to 1 billion years of service of management of Scientology. So at the age of 16, I began working at Scientology's headquarters. It's a 500-acre, extremely secluded compound in Gilman Hot Springs, California. My parents were made to sign over guardianship of me. They did not know where I was physically located. I then spent 8 years working directly under David Miscavige in Religious Technology Center. It's the highest ecclesiastical organization in Scientology. And in January 2005, my husband, Mark Headley, escaped from that compound on a motorcycle. He was run off the road by security. A passerby called 911. The only reason he was successful in his escape is because Riverside County Sheriff's Office responded. I was left at the secure compound with a really tough situation. It really made me realize how miserable I'd been. I'd witnessed David Miscavige personally, physically abusing staff many, many times, top executives in Scientology, Mike Rinder, Norman Starkey, Mark Yeager. I could go on and on and on listing the people I saw David Miscavige physically abuse. When my husband escaped, it really brought me to a crisis, if you would call it that. And I had to devise my own escape plan, which I enacted 3 weeks later, towards the end of January 2005. I was pursued from California across state lines to Las Vegas, Nevada. They threatened to follow me all the way to Kansas City, where I was heading to reunite with my husband. So yeah, it was not an easy task to get out of there.
When you say escape, and everyone is conjuring up like, you're an adult. This is America. You're not in prison. Why would you need to escape? Do you have to physically escape? Is it a psychological escape?
Oh, no, it's absolutely a very physical escape. I had a security escort I had to run away from, who then pursued me. And then I had 4 staff members, like I said, follow me across state lines from California to Las Vegas, Nevada, and confront me in the Las Vegas bus station, telling me that they were going to take me back. They called my husband and said, "We caught her, she's not coming." And I had to quite literally sit on the floor of the bus station and hope that if they tried to physically grab me and take me out of there, if I screamed, that maybe somebody might pay attention and call 911.
Wow. Have you ever filed charges or filed a lawsuit against them?
My husband and I did file a lawsuit in 2009 for various causes of action. That lawsuit was dismissed in the end. The judge said that had we pursued other causes of action, such as false imprisonment, assault and battery, et cetera, we may have fared differently. As it was a legal situation where we just simply didn't have the correct resources to go up against $1 billion organization. It was a David and Goliath situation, and we failed. And we paid their legal fees because they said that if we did it, they had offered us that if we would agree to never speak publicly about Scientology ever again, turn over the rights to my husband's book, Blown for Good, Behind the Iron Curtain of Scientology, turn over any and all information of any communication we'd had with any ex-Scientologists or any media contacts, they would waive that bill. We decided to pay it anyway, so we paid them approximately $43,000 so as to not be silenced.
Well, I'm glad you haven't been silenced, and I'm so glad that you joined us tonight. Claire Headley, thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
Incredible insight we're getting tonight from former members. Okay, when we come back, we're going to have a journalist who's been covering Scientology for years. We'll get his take on this lawsuit, and Danny Masterson, who's about to be, sentenced for 2 rapes of former Scientologists. That's next.
These are the cases that captivated the world.
Couldn't keep my life straight.
That demanded our attention.
They were killed by their own children.
That challenged the legal system and ourselves.
How in the world can a mother wait 30 days before reporting her child missing?
These are the trials that became legendary. And now you can relive them all in one place. Court TV Legendary Trials. Go to courttv.com/legendary trials to find out how to watch.
In 2013, Ms. Remini formally and publicly left Scientology and became an outspoken public advocate for victims of Scientology. As a result, beginning in 2013 and continuing to this day, defendant Miscavige and the other defendants began to level one of their most coordinated and malicious assaults against Ms. Remini. Defendants enlisted dozens of current and former Scientologists to record videotaped messages to make disparaging and false claims against Ms. Remini, including false and defamatory statements that she was abusive to her mother and daughter and that she is a racist. Defendants also used and manipulated Ms. Remini's estranged and now deceased father, George Remini, and his third wife, Dana, to make false statements about Ms. Remini, including that she is a liar, that she only wanted to have her name in the news, that she would not help to pay for his cancer treatments. These false statements were posted to websites created and controlled by defendants. While Ms. Remini was in New York in 2015 to promote her book, she became aware that she was being followed by private investigators hired by defendants. These private investigators followed Ms. Remini to and from her hotel and to and from all interviews and media appearances. Defendants hired surveillance consistent with Scientology directives was so intimidating that it made Ms. Remini fear for her physical safety.
More of the allegations from Leah Remini in her lawsuit against the Church of Scientology. Let me bring in our next guest, joining us tonight from Scarsdale, New York, journalist and author on Scientology, Tony Ortega. Tony, great to see you. What are your thoughts about this lawsuit and the possibility of this thing going to trial with cameras in the courtroom? How do you think the church would respond to that?
Thanks for having me on, Vinny. Well, listen, you in your introduction, you made a really great point about religions in general and litigation. And I just want to point something out right from the beginning. In this 60-page complaint, there is not a single word about the beliefs of Scientology. I mean, the beliefs of Scientology are pretty weird. It's about past life therapy and invisible alien beings attached to you. Leah Remini does not have a word about that. It's about the practice of harassing former members and retaliating against them, and specifically in ways that have harmed her ability to make a living. That's why I think this is such a powerful lawsuit, Vinny, is that it has specifics about the ways that the things she was working on, documentary, podcast, her game show, have all been harmed materially by Scientology's coordinated attacks. And I know Scientology is going to come back and say, this is about free speech. We can call her names all we want to. And I think that Leah's legal team is very smart. They know how there's been numerous lawsuits from ex-Scientologists in the last 10 years. They have learned from those lawsuits. They are anticipating Scientology's attacks. And one of them is they're going to say this is just free speech. And this lawsuit lays out that it's not just about name calling, that it's about action, that it's about activities undertaken by the church to harm her materially. And I think that's what makes it such a powerful lawsuit. As far as a trial, you know, Vinny, civil lawsuits tend to be settled. And,
I know they do. The only reason I'm saying it's different, could this be different because the motivation? I mean, when we covered Johnny Depp's lawsuit, that was never about money, right? That was about Johnny Depp wanting to get in court and wanting to show the world, right? Is that what you think this one is about?
I think you're right. And one thing that proves that is early in the lawsuit, in the complaint, Leah spells out that it's not just about money. It's about, she wants to change Scientology's practices. She wants a court to give injunctive relief that will prevent Scientology from attacking people in the future. So she's got her eye on real change that she hopes this lawsuit will make happen. The reason why I say that a trial may be difficult is that David Miscavige cannot afford for this thing to be in court. Claire Headley, just before me, was talking about that juries do not like Scientology. The press would eat up any testimony being given in court. Another example, Laura DiCrescenzo was a Scientologist who sued in 2009. It took her 9 years to get to trial through various just really difficult hurdles. And literally a couple of days before that trial was going to start, David Miscavige wrote a big check and made it all go away. So it'll be interesting to see if Leah can get this into court. But along the way, it's going to be amazing because she's going to be introducing incredible evidence about the church. Scientology is going to fight in ways that will blow people's minds. We've seen it in the other cases. They have no shame, Vinny. They will file the most of you. Well, you saw that response. It's off the hook, right? Oh yeah. And that's how Scientology acts in court. So it's really going to be a lot of fun to watch.
Let me ask you this, on a different case, and I know you're involved covering that as well. Danny Masterson, convicted rapist, he's got to be sentenced. You know, when a lot of people are sentenced, they bring in the priest, they bring in the pastor to speak on their behalf. Do you think David Miscavige or anyone from the Church of Scientology will come in and speak on behalf of Danny Masterson, the convicted rapist?
Well, I think in cases like this, what happens is they submit letters. Isn't that how it usually works? And I have, and it's a criminal case, so there's not a public file. So we don't know yet what's being filed on his behalf. But I have a feeling right now that court is getting sent lots of letters from family members, possibly other Scientologists. Would David Miscavige write something? I kind of doubt that. He probably would not want to be associated with it. But I hope that those letters become public after the sentencing, and then we can see who was speaking up on Danny's behalf.
And are there still civil cases related to those, to what happened to the accusers, the victims in the Danny Masterson case?
Right.
The criminal case. Are there civil cases?
Yes, the Danny Masterson accusers filed a harassment lawsuit against Danny and the Church of Scientology in 2019, the year before he was actually criminally charged. That lawsuit has been on hold until after Danny is sentenced.
Okay, so there's another opportunity. That one, I think, will be settled.
That one's about harassment. It's about that these women are saying since they came forward to the LAPD, they've been stalked, harassed. Their pets have been poisoned, which is kind of a classic Scientology accusation. And that's going to be a very interesting case. But like I said, we're waiting for that one. That one's on hold.
And how about you?
What, have they come after me?
Yeah, they come after you.
Yeah, I've been writing about Scientology for, gosh, how long has it been now? More than 20 years. And they come after me, but see, they're such cowards, Vinny. They don't come after me. They send private investigators to intimidate my mother. They've had a private investigator pretend he's a reporter in order to create a scandal involving my wife. I mean, they just do these really slimy things. That's why it's really interesting to see Leah Remini suing over that kind of thing, because so many other people have experienced what she has.
Well, Tony, I appreciate your time tonight and your insight. We'll speak again.